Discover the incredible journey of a billionaire who waited a heartwarming 10 years to win her heart. In the quaint town of Maplewood, life flowed like the river it nestled against, at its own pace, steady and true. Yet, for Jake Thompson, a 30-year-old mechanic, each day felt like a race against time. He worked tirelessly in his family's auto repair shop, a place where grease and oil told stories of rusted dreams and reborn hopes. But there was one dream, a love he hadn't dared to voice, that shone brighter than any engine he could restore: Clara Reed. For 10 long years, he watched her from the shadows, his heart pounding with a mix of admiration and trepidation. The townsfolk loved Clara, a passionate advocate for justice. She stood up at town meetings, her voice a beacon for the downtrodden, her eyes sparking with fire whenever she spoke against inequality. She cared deeply about her community, yet, Jake felt like a ghost in her world, an invisible watcher standing far removed from the life she led. Their worlds were galaxies apart. He was a struggling mechanic, she was the daughter of the town's wealthiest family. Every time Clara flashed that brilliant smile, Jake's heart did a joyful somersault, yet the weight of his circumstances settled heavily on his chest. Did someone like her even notice someone like him? With the weight of his family's struggles pressing down, he felt unworthy, his heart shackled by fear. One day at a town meeting, everything shifted. A crisp autumn breeze blew through, sending leaves swirling as Clara stood to address the crowd. Her words were full of hope, but as her father, William Harrington, a billionaire and distant figure of authority, arrived, Jake felt the tension spike. William's suit contrasted sharply against the flannel and leather of the townspeople. Intrigued by Jake's grit, William sought him out, recognizing a spark he hadn't seen in years. "Your hard work is commendable, young man," he said, his voice carrying a hint of challenge. Jake felt the air thickening, a storm brewing between ambition and reality. In that moment, standing opposite Clara's father, the man who represented everything Jake feared, he cringed at the widening gap between them. Could he bridge it? Or was he simply a mechanic destined to fix cars, never dreams? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake grappled with feelings of inadequacy, Clara sensed the tension. Torn between her loyalty and her emerging feelings for Jake, she stood on the edge of uncertainty, her gaze flicking between her father and the man whose heart beat loudly in the silence. The clash of ideals simmered in the air, but just beneath it was a profound hope. When a crisis struck Maplewood, a sudden factory closure, leaving many without jobs, the community united, their resilience shining bright. Forced into the spotlight, Jake's courage ignited a spark within him. Would this be the moment he finally overcame his self-doubt? As townsfolk rallied behind him, fighting for what mattered, Jake and Clara would have to decide what they truly valued. Standing before Clara, a whirlwind of emotions coursing through him, Jake dared to dream. Could their love break the chains of societal expectations? The air crackled with energy, a question echoing in the vastness of their hearts: would love really conquer all? As the town meeting wrapped up, Jake could still feel Clara's eyes on him. It was a small comfort amidst the chaos engulfing Maplewood. With the factory closure, whispers swirled around town like the autumn leaves. Families were frightened, uncertain of what the future held. But in that storm, something resolved within Jake. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, he was part of something bigger. "Jake!" A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Clara, her hands clasped together as if holding on to the moment. Her presence radiated warmth, igniting a spark of courage deep within him. "Can we talk?" His heart slammed against his chest as they stepped away from the crowd. They stood by a weathered oak tree, its leaves, once vibrant, were now a cascade of orange and gold, setting the perfect backdrop for this pivotal moment. "Thank you for what you said today," Clara started, her voice trembling slightly. "You stood up for our community. It meant a lot." Jake shifted, suddenly acutely aware of the distance between them. "I just did what anyone would do," he managed, hoping to downplay his actions. "No, Jake, it was more than that," she insisted, stepping closer. "You have a fire in you. I've seen you work for years, but today was different." Her words wrapped around him like a blanket, igniting a warmth that pushed away the chill creeping in from his fears. "I can't help it," he admitted, "this place it's home. And you care so much. Sometimes I feel like I don't fit into your world." Clara's eyes glistened, reflecting a mix of emotions. "I don't care about that, Jake. What I care about is the passion I see in you. You're fighting for the people I love." He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of vulnerability. "But your dad, he's not going to see me that way. I'm just a mechanic. He expects someone from his world." "Then let us redefine those expectations," Clara said firmly. A hint of encouragement sparkled in her voice. "People can change, and you can inspire change. If we stick together, we can make a difference." Jake stared into her eyes, unsure if he was ready for the journey ahead. The distance of their worlds felt overwhelming, yet Clara's determination gave him strength. "You really believe we can?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Absolutely." Clara beamed, her smile infectious. Their moment was interrupted by a distant shout, the urgency of impending protests evident. Maplewood needed a leader. Jake could feel it in his bones. The stirrings of possibility filled the air around them, blending with the leaves dancing in the wind. "Let us do this together," he said, his heart racing. As they turned to face the gathering crowd, an invisible bond forged between them. Jake couldn't help but wonder, was this the beginning of not just a partnership for the community but also something deeper? Clara looked at him, her brow furrowed with determination and hope. "Let us take this fight to them together." But as the two stepped into the fray, an unexpected figure emerged, a face from Jake's past that would force him to confront everything he feared. What secrets were about to unfold, threatening everything he and Clara had fought for? As Jake and Clara faced the crowd, a familiar voice sliced through the tension. "Jake Lawson?" The crowd parted as a figure stepped forward, eyes locked onto Jake's. It was Marcus Hill, his former best friend turned rival. "What are you doing here?" Jake's voice was steady, but inside, panic pulsed. "I came back to help," Marcus said, his tone casual yet laced with challenge. "I heard about the factory closing. Thought I could lend a hand." "Since when do you care about Maplewood?" Clara shot back, her protective instincts flaring. Marcus shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. "I've got my reasons. Maybe I want to see how the other half lives." He gestured to the factory still smoldering in the distance, a haunting reminder of what the town was losing. Jake felt the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about the factory. This was his past colliding with his present. "And what makes you think we need your help?" Jake replied, his voice firmer than he felt. "I have connections. Resources," Marcus said. "You know I've been doing well in the city. I could rally some investors to come to the rescue." Clara scoffed. "This isn't about money, Marcus. This is our home. We need people who really care, not just those looking for a profit." Jake sensed the tension between them. He wanted to believe in Clara's words but found himself torn. "What do you want, Marcus? Are you really here to help, or is this just another way to prove you're better than me?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, his smirk fading. "It's not about you, Jake. It's about Maplewood." As they stood there, the crowd's murmurs grew, shifting from curiosity to concern. Jake's heart raced. This was becoming more than a conversation, it was an intersection of everything he had fought against. "I just don't trust you," Jake said finally, locking eyes with Marcus. "The last time you were here, you left without looking back." "I get it. You're still holding that grudge," Marcus returned, his voice low. "But I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just hear me out. We can do something great together." Before Jake could respond, a woman from the crowd spoke up. "What do you have to offer? We need real solutions, not empty promises." Clara stepped forward, emboldened by the crowd's support. "We stood together through worse. We don't need someone who abandoned us. We need each other." She glanced at Jake, eyes urging him to remember what mattered. Jake could feel the weight of expectations falling on him. The energy from the crowd surged, pushing him toward a decision. Look to Clara and the community, his recent desire to lead surged in him like a flame. "What are we going to do about this, Jake?" Clara asked, her voice steady but exposed. Jake looked at Marcus, then back at Clara. Stepping to the forefront, he felt something stir deep inside him. This was his moment, to truly decide what kind of man he wanted to be. A sudden realization hit him: Marcus might have the connections, but the strength of the community was far more potent. Clara's right. "We're going to take this fight on our terms." The crowd erupted into applause, but Jake could feel Marcus's eyes on him, watching, waiting. And just like that, the challenge laid bare. It wasn't only his past haunting him anymore, it was a choice. What would Jake do next as the weight of the past began to shift the future? The crowd's applause faded into an anxious stillness. Jake felt the eyes of Maplewood on him, each gaze a reminder of the shared history, the laughter, and the pain. Clara's hand found his, squeezing tightly. He took a deep breath, knowing this moment could either break them or bring them closer together. "Listen up, everyone," he called out, pushing his confidence to the surface. "This is more than just about the factory. It's about who we are as a town. We can either stand by and watch it crumble, or we can fight for what we believe in." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. People shifted, some nodding, others exchanging glances, a sense of unity building among them. Jake remembered the Friday night barbecues and long weekends of softball games. Those were the moments that made Maplewood a home, not the factory alone. Marcus stepped forward again, a frown etched across his face. "And what? You think you can just rally everyone and fix this overnight? You need resources, expertise. You need someone with connections. And you think you're that someone?" Clara shot back, sparks flying from her words. "You left us once. Why should we trust you again?" Undeterred, Marcus straightened. "Because I want to turn things around. I've built something in the city, and I can use that to help here. But you have to let me in. Just think of what we could do." Jake glanced at Clara, her expression was a mix of anger and confusion. "Really? You just expect us to pretend like the past doesn't exist? Like you didn't leave us hanging?" He felt a tightening in his chest. Clara's loyalty burned bright, and he admired that, yet the flicker of opportunity in Marcus's words tugged at him too. "What if we take his offer but under our conditions?" Jake suggested, surprising even himself. "Are you serious, Jake?" Clara's eyes widened. "You can't be considering this." "We need help," Jake insisted. "But it has to be on our terms. If we're going to save this town, we'll do it together. All of us." The crowd was listening intently now. Jake pressed on, "Let us form a committee. We can see what Marcus can really bring to the table, but in a way that protects our community. No more empty promises." Clara's jaw tightened, but her resolve seemed to soften a fraction. "Okay," she said slowly. "But I want it clear that this is about Maplewood, not a way for you to showcase your success, Marcus." Marcus nodded, and the tension in his face eased a little. Fine. I can live with that. Behind them, the townsfolk whispered, enthusiasm bubbling up at the thought of reconstruction. Hope began to flutter in Jake's chest as he saw the light in their eyes slowly coming back. "Let us make a plan," Jake shouted, the words gaining momentum. "We'll meet every week, and we'll keep our goals rooted in what matters to us. It starts with this town, our families, our friends." As applause erupted once more, the energy shifted again. Jake felt it like a current, rushing through him, making him believe they could really make a difference. But deep down, a lingering question remained: could he really trust Marcus again? The crowd began to disperse, their voices layering into a heartbeat of anxious excitement. But as Jake stood there, staring at the distant flames curling up from the factory, another thought overshadowed all else. What if Marcus had his own agenda, one that could threaten everything they were trying to rebuild? Jake's heart raced. What had he just invited into their lives? He could sense the challenge ahead, the uncertainty swirling as awareness dawned on him. The real battle was just beginning. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, but Jake felt only a heaviness in his heart. As the crowd dispersed, hope clashed with doubt. The future of Maplewood hung in the balance, and he had a nagging feeling he had just taken a leap into the unknown. "Jake, we need to talk," Clara broke the silence, her voice a mixture of determination and concern. "Yeah, I know," he replied, looking into her eyes that sparkled in the fading light. "But we have a chance now. We can make something happen." Clara shook her head slowly. "You're right, but I can't shake off this feeling. Marcus isn't just some passing stranger, you know. He knows a lot about our past, and he could just as easily come in and tear everything apart again." Jake felt his stomach churn at her words. She had a point. He watched the townsfolk walk away, their chatter now laced with excitement and worry. A wave of nostalgia hit him like a freight train. He remembered their dreams, their laughter echoing through the factory, the blood, sweat and tears they had all poured into their lives. Could one person ruin it all? "Let us at least meet him," Jake suggested, trying to breathe life into the flickering flame of hope. "Let us draw our boundaries and see if he keeps to them. If he doesn't, we can cut him off. Or we could find ourselves drowning in his ideas," Clara argued, crossing her arms. "What if he pitches something great and we get swept along without a clue? We've got to be careful." Jake sighed, knowing the weight of those last words. Trust was a fragile thing, especially after everything they had been through. He wanted to believe Marcus had changed, but doubt lingered like a shadow over their plans. "I just feel like we might be at a crossroads," he said. "We can either cling to what we've always known or reach for something more, something better. This town deserves a shot." The intensity in Clara's gaze softened. "It's hard not to feel scared," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've never done anything this big before." "Then let us do it together," Jake urged, stepping closer. "If it works, it works. If not, we'll face it. I promise I won't let anyone take away our home." With a reluctant nod, Clara stepped back slightly, considering his words. "But we need a plan. A solid one. If we're going to work with Marcus, we have to research everything. We have to know what he has done." "Deal. We can gather a few others who feel the same way. Maybe the old crew, some of the factory workers?" Jake suggested, picturing the familiar faces he hadn't seen in years. "That could work," Clara finally admitted, her fingers untangling from her tense grip, a small spark of excitement emerging. "But I still want to keep an eye on Marcus. I'm not going to let my guard down." Laughing softly, Jake felt something lift within him. "Fair enough," he said. A little skepticism never hurt anyone. As they made their way to their cars, the determination to make a difference propelled them forward. Jake stole one last glance at the factory, its shadow looming against the sunset. Clara turned to him, her expression suddenly serious. Just promise me, if it feels wrong, we walk away. No matter how hard it might be. I promise, he assured her, but doubt lingered in the air around them. Tomorrow would bring conversations with old friends, planning, and digging deeper into Marcus's proposal. But as they drove off, another question gnawed at Jake: was he ready to fight the ghosts of the past for the future they were trying to build? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. The stakes were rising, and every decision would point them toward a future that remained uncertain but full of possibility. But would Marcus's past become their own worst enemy? The morning sun broke over Maplewood, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's doubts. Jake rubbed the sleep from his eyes, grappling with the weight of their plans. He glanced at the clock. It was time to face the day, to gather strength for the conversations ahead. Clara's voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of their fragile state, how one wrong move could send them spiraling backward. He shook his head, banishing thoughts of failure. Today was about moving forward, about reclaiming hope. At the diner, the familiar scent of brewed coffee wrapped around him, invoking memories of late-night talks and laughter shared over pancakes. He spotted a few of the old crew and felt a swell of excitement. These were the people who once fought together, laboring under the same weight of dreams. "Jake! Over here!" Mary waved from a corner booth, a bright smile on her face that was infectious. "Hey, Mary!" Jake called back, making his way over. "Good to see you." "Good to see you too." "Heard you're stirring things up with Marcus," she said, curiosity dancing in her eyes. Jake took a breath as Clara joined them, her presence grounding him. "We want to give the factory a chance," he explained, the urgency of reality settling back in. "We think he might have ideas to help us." Mary raised an eyebrow. "What's the catch?" "No catch, just a lot of research and some cautious optimism," Clara interjected. "But we need to see if he's genuine. We want everyone involved in this decision." Taking a sip of her coffee, Mary nodded. "Count me in. If there's a chance for Maplewood, I'm all about it." As the conversation turned into a brainstorm of ideas and memories, Jake felt the warmth of support. They recalled the late-night shifts, laughter mingling with the hum of machines. Each story wove a deeper connection, a reminder of why they fought so hard for their town. "Let's get the band back together, huh?" Jake suggested, his heart racing. "I can call Ricky, and how about Sarah? She always had an eye for organization." As names flew around the table, Clara's gaze fell on Jake, a silent agreement passing between them. They were in this together, facing the challenge, confronting old fears. "Jake, I know this means a lot to you," Clara said quietly as the chatter buzzed around them. "But don't forget to listen to your gut. If something feels off, I know," he interrupted gently, his voice reassuring. "I won't ignore the signs." Their meeting ended with plans set in motion. Along with Clara and Mary, they would reach out to others who shared their determination. Together, they'd unite the townsfolk, igniting the flame of hope for Maplewood's revival. As they left the diner, a mix of excitement and anxiety settled in Jake's chest. This was it, they were taking a real step forward. But in the back of his mind, a shadow loomed. Would Marcus's influence help or hinder them? Later that evening, he found himself staring at the factory once more, its silhouette cutting against the twilight sky. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. Could he truly steer this into something positive, or would the past come crashing back? Just then, a text buzzed in his pocket. It was from Clara. "Are you ready for this?" As he typed back a simple, "trying to be," another thought crept into his mind, a chilling reminder: what if they were stirring up ghosts better left alone? A deep breath later, he realized it was time to find out. Tomorrow would be vital, a decided step into the unknown path of their making, but what awaited them in Marcus's world? The sun struggled to break through the clouds the next morning, casting a gray hue over Maplewood. Jake could sense the tension in the air, a jangled rhythm that matched the pace of his racing heart. He sat at his kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, trying to collect his thoughts. Clara would be here soon, ready to face the day with him. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown. He replayed yesterday's conversation in his mind, feeling the weight of every word. What had seemed like a flame of hope was now more like a flickering candle in a drafty room. Could Marcus really be the solution they needed? Just as he set his cup down, he heard a knock at the door. It was Clara, her determined expression instantly calming his nerves. "Ready?" she asked breathlessly, as if she had just tackled the impossible. "I'll be ready when you are," Jake replied, forcing a smile. He could sense her energy, vibrant and fierce. They piled into Clara's truck and made their way toward the factory. The streets were quiet, and it felt as if the whole town was holding its breath. Jake glanced at Clara, whose eyes were fixed determinedly ahead. He admired her resolve but couldn't shake the nagging doubts creeping into his mind. What if they were making a mistake? As they arrived, a handful of townsfolk were already gathered outside the factory gates. Familiar faces filled with curiosity and hope. Jake's heart soared at the sight. He stepped out, and the crowd turned towards him, voices rising in excitement. "Jake! What's the plan?" someone called out from the back. Jake cleared his throat, the weight of what he was about to say resting heavily on him. "Today we meet with Marcus," he started, trying to keep his voice steady. "We're here to see if we can work together to breathe life back into this factory." The crowd remained silent. Some nodded, others wore skeptical expressions. Jake knew they were teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Clara stepped forward. "Look, I know that we all have our doubts. But we came out here today because it's time to take a chance for our town. For Maplewood." As she spoke, Jake felt a shift in the air. People began to murmur, exchanging glances, and a spark of hope flickered within him. "I believe in this because I believe in all of you," he added, lifting his voice. "We're in this together no matter what happens with Marcus today." The crowd responded with nods and soft cheers, reigniting Jake's courage. This was at the moment of truth. They had crossed many hurdles before, but the stakes felt higher now. "Let us go," Clara said, determination etched on her face. They walked towards the entrance, and it felt as though they were stepping into another world. A world fueled by risk, innovation, and maybe even fear. Inside, Jake's senses were assaulted by the familiar smell of metal and grease. He walked slowly, letting memories wash over him, days and nights spent working alongside friends, creating a tapestry of shared dreams. Just ahead stood Marcus, arms crossed and a smirk on his face. There was something about the way he carried himself that felt off to Jake, like a predator sizing up its prey. "Glad you could make it," Marcus called out, his tone playful yet ominous. Jake felt Clara's hand squeeze his arm. "We're here with a purpose," she stated firmly. "We're ready to talk." But as they took another step forward, a chilling thought raced through Jake's mind. Was this the beginning of a hopeful new chapter, or had they just walked into a trap? The tension hung thick in the air, and he realized they were on the brink of something life-altering. What game was Marcus really playing, and what would it mean for Maplewood? Marcus leaned against a rusted column, an air of confidence radiating from him. He could see the uncertainty etched on Jake's face, and it made him smile. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let us get one thing straight," he said, uncrossing his arms. "This isn't charity. If I'm going to invest, I need to know what you bring to the table." Jake swallowed hard. "We bring passion. We know this community, and we won't let it fail," he insisted, grounding his voice with every ounce of conviction he could muster. Clara stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "We're here to save this factory, Marcus. We won't back down. Just tell us what you need from us." The crowd outside had grown larger, their breaths held in collective anticipation. Jake felt their energy wrapping around him, bolstering his resolve. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus thrived off tension. "All right then," Marcus said, his smirk deepening. "Let us say I listen to your pitch. Convince me in 10 minutes that you can revitalize this place. If you fail, I'm not wasting another moment on your dreams." 10 minutes is enough, Clara shot back fiercely, and the fire in her tone ignited something in the crowd. Their needs, hopes, dreams, they were all stacked on that moment. They moved to an empty space in the factory. Jake's heart raced as he gestured for Clara to start. She took a deep breath, the rhythm of her heartbeat matching the pulse of the room. Maplewood deserves better than what it has now. This factory has a legacy. It can create jobs, bring families back together. We just need the right vision, Clara explained, her voice steady. With your investments, we could modernize operations and attract sustainable projects. Jake watched her, struggling with his own doubts but inspired by her passion. Suddenly, he had ideas bursting in his mind, visions of what they could create together. "We're committed to fostering a culture here, one built on teamwork, innovation, and pride," he added. "The people of Maplewood? They're ready to work harder than ever." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And what's in it for me?" he challenged, leaning back, arms now crossed once more. Jake paused, feeling the weight of the question. "You get a community, not just a factory. You turn a profit by empowering the people," he said, forcing himself to maintain eye contact with Marcus. "If you want to invest, you invest in family." A flicker of surprise crossed Marcus's face, but he quickly masked it. "You think families will pay dividends?" "Yes," Jake stated firmly, the conviction in his voice growing. "A revitalized factory injects life into this town. You can be part of that change. We want to do this together." If he could just show Marcus that togetherness mattered more than mere profit. There was a silence in the room, the crowd's collective breath caught in their throats, the weight of their hopes hanging heavy. Marcus paused, then chuckled, as if he was weighing the absurdity of their proposition. "All right. I'll allow you to convince me through action, not just words. But know this: fail to deliver, and I won't look back." Relief washed over Jake momentarily, but the tight knot of anxiety in his stomach reminded him that they were walking on thin ice. They were in the game now, and the stakes were suddenly far higher. As they left the factory that day, Jake felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. They were now committed to a path fraught with challenges. Not only did they need to prove themselves to Marcus, but they had to rally the community to believe in a future. Could they meet his expectations? Was the fabric of Maplewood strong enough to withstand the weight of their dreams? And what if Marcus saw them as nothing more than another pretext for failure? The questions loomed large, each one more daunting than the last. Jake exchanged a determined glance with Clara, whose resolve seemed unshaken. "Let us show him exactly what Maplewood can do," she said softly, and for the first time in what felt like forever, hope ignited once more in Jake's heart. But he feared the coming trials would test them all in unimaginable ways. They had entered a new chapter, a challenge woven with uncertainties and the promise of something greater. What they didn't know yet was that Marcus wasn't the only one harboring hidden agendas. Jake and Clara walked side by side down the cracked sidewalk, the evening sun casting long shadows that intertwined with their hopes. The chatter of the crowd faded behind them, but the weight of their commitment clung to the air. "What's our first move?" Clara asked, glancing sideways at Jake. Her determination was infectious, and Jake felt a rush of energy at her side. "We need to meet with the community," he replied, searching for the right words. "We have to show them that this isn't just a factory revival, but a chance to inspire each other." He counted the steps in his mind, breaking down the challenges they faced. The air was thick with anticipation as they arrived at the town hall, an old, brick building that had borne witness to countless town meetings and heartfelt gatherings. As they walked in, familiarity washed over Jake. This was home, and these were the people he wanted to fight for. The room was filled with familiar faces, families, friends, and stubborn spirits who had invested their lives in Maplewood. Clara walked to the front, her confidence radiating as she turned to face the crowd. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady and strong. "We have a real chance to bring back Maplewood to its former glory. This factory, it's more than just bricks and machines. It's our community's heart." Jake watched as she spoke, the passion in her voice igniting something in everyone present. He felt the stir of hope, it filled the room and seeped into every corner, bouncing back in waves of enthusiasm. "But we can't do it alone," Jake chimed in, stepping up beside her. "We need each of you to believe in this. To invest your time, your skills. Together, we can create something beautiful here." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He could see the skepticism on a few faces, the cautious optimism on others. Change was scary, Jake knew that too well. "I know it's hard to trust again," Clara said, her eyes searching the crowd. "But think about the legacy we can build. We owe it to ourselves. To our families. To all those who have worked so hard to keep this town alive. We can do better." Silence fell. Then, a scruffy voice broke through the tension. "What's in it for us?" It came from Mr. Jensen, a factory worker who lost his job years ago. His spirit was like steel, tough but shattered. Jake's heart raced. "Work. Work that brings pride. We want you all to be part of something bigger. Your voices will matter, your suggestions will lead the way." He paused, hoping to meet Mr. Jensen's eyes. "Without your input, this place won't have a heartbeat." A nod from Mr. Jensen sparked a renewed murmur in the crowd. Clara continued, "We're not just looking to make profits. We want to ensure every worker feels valued, every family feels secure." One by one, people began to voice their thoughts, some skeptics slowly turning to allies. Ideas bloomed on how they could modernize operations, promote family-friendly policies, and even organize workshops for the community's children. Jake felt the weight of possibility lifting as energy surged in the room. Finally, just as hope began to swirl around them like a warm breeze, a tension-filled new voice entered the fray. "And what if Marcus pulls funding? What's your plan then?" A young woman stood at the back, fierce determination etching her features. Clara glanced at Jake, their eyes locking in a mix of fear and readiness. "We stand together," Jake said confidently, his heart drumming with every word. "If he decides to pull out, we regroup. We rebuild. Together." The crowd responded, momentum building with each passing moment. Maybe this was the spark they needed. Perhaps they truly could ignite a fire in the heart of Maplewood. But as hopes rose, an unsettling thought drifted into Jake's mind. They lit the flame, but was the fire strong enough to keep burning if Marcus turned on them? In that moment, their determination shone bright amid uncertainty. Jake had never felt more alive, yet the shadows of the upcoming challenges loomed larger than ever. As night fell, the weight of their newfound mission settled on his shoulders. Would it all hold together when the first storm hit? Would betrayal come waiting around the corner? With uncertainty on the horizon, Jake knew they had to brace themselves for whatever came next. They were ready to push through for their dreams, for each other, and for Maplewood. But what they couldn't foresee was the approaching storm, darkening their path in ways they could never imagine. The morning light spilled over Maplewood like a promise, and as Jake stood on the steps of the town hall, he could feel the weight of the past mixing with an exhilarating energy that buzzed in the air. Clara stood beside him, their fingers barely touching but the connection blazing with intensity. Today marked a new beginning, not just for them but for every soul in their community. "Today, we fight for Maplewood," Jake declared, his voice steady, echoing in the hearts of all gathered. Fear mingled with renewed hope as the townsfolk whispered among themselves, glancing at each other and nodding. Jake could feel their heartbeat, united in purpose, ready to face what lay ahead. Clara took a deep breath and faced the crowd. This factory isn't just an old building, it's a vessel for our dreams, our families. It holds the essence of who we are. We can build something remarkable here, something that will echo for generations. Her words ignited the crowd, a spark touching off the kindling of excitement. As the meeting progressed, people shared their ideas for revitalization, ranging from creating eco-friendly manufacturing processes to offering apprenticeships for the younger generation. Each suggestion burned with passion, transforming the air thick with possibility. But just as momentum surged, the doors swung open. Marcus strode in with an air of authority that cut through the enthusiasm like a knife. Instantly, the room grew quiet, unease coiling around them. "Sorry to crash your little gathering," Marcus said, his tone dripping with sarcasm, "but I've reconsidered a few details about our partnership." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" Marcus leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "I've heard whispers of discontent. You might have rallied the town today, but remember, I'm still your investor. If I sense any hesitance, I'll pull my support faster than you can say failure." The tension in the room crackled. Clara's jaw tightened as she stepped forward. "This isn't just your factory. This is our home. We're not letting fear dictate our future." "Brave words," Marcus mocked, but words won't put food on the table. His gaze turned to Jake, testing the resolve. "Are you ready to pivot on a dime if I press?" Jake clenched his fists, but amidst the turmoil, he found clarity. This wasn't about Marcus. It was about Maplewood and their community's future. "Marcus, you may hold the money, but you can't buy our spirit. We're banding together, and as long as we stand united, you won't break us." A ripple of approval echoed through the crowd. Clara smiled at him, her faith in him bolstered by his confidence. "Oh, really?" Marcus chuckled, a semblance of doubt crossing his face. Yet the challenge ignited something fierce inside Jake. "Let us see if you can back up your words," Marcus said, his tone shifting to something darker. "Let us set up a test. If you fail, your precious factory becomes mine." Jake's heart raced. "What kind of test?" "A community project, revitalizing this old diner across the street. If you can bring it back and prove it'll benefit our town, I'll stake my investment. Fail, and I'll replace your board with my own." Everything froze, the challenge hung like a storm cloud, its weight heavy and daunting. Jake glanced at Clara, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. But then he thought about the townsfolk, the faces of his friends, the laughter, the memories. "We will take that challenge. We will restore this diner because it symbolizes our roots." Marcus smirked, a glimmer of respect hidden in his arrogance. "Then let the clock tick. You have 30 days. Impress me, or lose everything." With those words, Marcus walked away, leaving behind a whirlwind of anxiety and potential. Yet Jake felt an indomitable fire kindling in him. With Clara at his side and the town rallying behind them, they would not falter. The following weeks flew by. Meetings were filled with brainstorming and planning, laughter and light piercing through uncertainty. Families gathered, each one bringing their ideas, their strengths, and their dreams. Each moment boosted their resolve as they pushed through obstacles together. As the diner began to transform, Jake felt the weight of the community lift. Walls were painted, broken seats restored, kitchens refurbished, and the laughter of children mingled with the sound of hammers and drills, life returning to an empty space. Yet, as the deadline approached, doubt crept in like a shadow. What if they could not meet Marcus's expectations? What if they fell apart? On the final day, Clara and Jake stood before the diner, their hearts racing. "This is it," Clara whispered, her eyes searching his. "Are you ready?" With the town gathered behind them, Jake stepped forward, the door swinging open to reveal a vibrant, thriving space transformed from desolation to hope. They had not just rebuilt a diner, they had revived the spirit of Maplewood. Clara placed her hand on his. "We did this together." As the people of Maplewood stepped inside, eyes shimmering with pride, Jake felt a surge of satisfaction that pushed away every doubt. Their mission had been accomplished. And when Marcus returned, looking impressed but trying to conceal it behind a strict demeanor, Jake didn't waver. "We did what we said we would do. We proved that Maplewood is worth investing in, not just for profit, but for family." Marcus paused, weighing his options. "You have my respect, Jake. But make no mistake, this is business, and I won't hesitate to cut losses after this." Jake nodded, swallowing hard, but feeling confident. "I'd expect no less. But just remember, we're family, and we'll fight to keep it that way." In that moment, something shifted, a crack in Marcus' armor of skepticism. He saw the light of determination in Jake's eyes, reflected in the vigorous environment surrounding them. As days turned into weeks, Marcus came around more often, watching Jake and Clara turn their vision into reality. A partnership forged not through necessity but through respect began. The town thrived, and with every passing day, Marco realized his chance wasn't just an investment, it was a community being rebuilt from love. Months later, as the sun set on Maplewood, the once gray diner now radiated warmth and laughter. Jake looked at Clara, watching her eyes dance with joy among friends. "Together, right?" he asked, squeezing her hand. "Forever," Clara replied, grinning brightly. In the embrace of their community, Jake realized they had built more than just a diner, they'd built a legacy. A cycle of hope passed down through families, rising again stronger, proving that love could indeed conquer all. And as their laughter soared into the twilight, Jake understood dreams do come true, all you need is faith, resilience, and a little bit of support from your family. So to all of you, take these lessons to heart. Believe in your dreams, support each other fiercely, and hold dear the ties that bind. As this chapter closes, don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this inspiring conclusion. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support, and only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through your actions. Don't wait not even one more second to share.